Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here with another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube and, of course, on our Facebook page, which is the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And as always, we are on X with our live shows at The Real Captain Lou. Hey, you want to see all these shows live and archived? Do yourself a favor, subscribe to the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. You get all of our great programming, including all of our Extravagant Few Minutes episodes, the Extravaganza with yours truly, and of course my tag team partner Mitch Bernstein. That the ACHA Power Play archived episodes, the 10th season of the ACHA Power Play in the books, taking the summer off for that. We'll pick that back up in the fall, but we got a lot of great programming as we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tonight's show is the Stanley Cup preview show, our extravagant Stanley Cup preview show, as we get you all set for the Stanley Cup playoffs, our favorite time of year, no doubt about it, as we take a look at all the opening round matchups. We give you our Stanley Cup prediction at the end as well. And also a special guest we're going to get to him momentarily. That is Rod Pedersen from the Rod Pedersen Show. You can watch him daily from 12 to 2 Eastern time on his YouTube channel, which is the Rod Pedersen Show. Great guest every day lineup on the show. He's been doing it a long time, and it's great to get his insight. We'll be there shortly with that interview. Full disclosure, we are going to go back to that interview, which was taped yesterday, Sunday, and towards the end of the show, I'll give you my predictions from Saturday, our Extravagant Few Minutes episode there. So all set to go for the Stanley Cup playoffs as we'll get you geared up, which should be another great run. Our favorite time of the year, that's for sure. Hey, a reminder that this show, as always, in all of our shows, is brought to you by the official secondary market of the Captain Lou Sports Network, and that is SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. It's that simple. There's a Stanley Cup playoff game you want to go to SeatGeek. Use that promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get $20 off of your purchase. All right. Without any further ado, as I mentioned yesterday, kind enough to join us to sit down and talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NHL in general, Rod Pedersen, the voice of the Rod Pedersen Show. Again, you can see him every day from 12 until 2 Eastern time on his YouTube channel, which is the Rod Pedersen Show. Let's go back to that interview from yesterday, talking all things NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs. And welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza as we get going along again with our extravagant Stanley Cup playoff preview. And as always, we're excited to bring in the host of the Rod Pedersen Show. You can see him on YouTube every day, Monday through Friday, from 12 to 2 Eastern time, Rod Pedersen. Rod, thanks for taking time out to be with us tonight. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lou. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's Stanley Cup hockey season, playoffs. It's nothing better, in my opinion, of all the major sports. This is the best. It's so much excitement.
Well, I enjoy talking about it. As you know, I'm here in South Florida, and it's funny, I was just announcing football this afternoon, high school football on my way home, and there's a billboard, NFL draft in 4 days on a billboard here. They're talking about the NFL. They're talking about the NBA playoffs. Nobody's talking hockey, so I'm always happy to talk, or here. So I'm always happy to be talking hockey with you.
All right, well, let's get right into it. I'm just going to do some rapid fire stuff here with you on the playoffs. Now, to me, Rod, I'm going to go right to the top, in my opinion, of the Eastern Conference. There's no Florida. They've had a great run. I think they'll be back next year. There's no New York teams. I think that's a first in Stanley Cup playoffs that none of the 3 New York teams are in. No Toronto. I know Carolina, to me, this is their playoff to lose. I think nothing short of a Stanley Cup final, to me, would be a huge disappointment for Rod Brind'Amour and the Hurricanes.
Well, and don't forget, you conveniently said or left out no Detroit Red Wings. I'm sure you've talked about it tonight already. I just saw them last week here in Sunrise, and you've talked about them enough. That was not just bad. That was capital B-A-D, bad out of Detroit. But no, you know, it's funny, going into the season, I had Carolina, Winnipeg as my Stanley Cup final. I should probably stop doing Stanley Cup final predictions, because it's like I'll do one going into the year and then I'll do one going into the playoffs, because it usually changes. Carolina's had their best season ever, or tied for their best season ever. You're right. And clinched the East, number 2 team overall in the NHL. But I mean, until they get there, and I'm talking about the Stanley Cup under Rod Brind'Amour, then I won't necessarily buy in. But no, I mean, they were my preseason pick, so at least half made it. But the Winnipeg Jets just defies description. And, the series that I've looked the most into is this Tampa Bay Montreal series for a variety of reasons. I mean, I do the Cats and Bolts podcast, so we cover half the time Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah. So when you said there's one team atop the East, I thought you were going to say Tampa. They're atop the East in a few categories. They're atop the NHL in playoff games experience.
Yeah.
So Tampa Vegas is kind of my Stanley Cup prediction going into the playoffs. I hope I don't jinx those two teams, but it should be a hell of a ride.
Well, it's going to be fun. You mentioned Tampa, and my second favorite team growing up was the Canadiens, and my heart says Montreal's going to go on a deep run. But when you've got Andre Vasilevsky and net, Rod, this. You're down there. Tampa's just to me, they're like Ric Flair until somebody beats them. I will give them a lot of flowers. Kucherov, Gunsel, Hagel, you can go right down the list, although I like Cole Caulfield and Suzuki up in Montreal. But you're right, Tampa is going to be right there in the end. That's going to be a heck of a series, though, with Montreal.
Well, I've been doing this a real long time, and I have a little formula, and I'll tell you, I didn't come up with it. My dad was a scout in the NHL for 26 years. This was his mask, by the way, over my shoulder. He's a goaltender. And so he taught me how to look at these playoff series. It's a pretty easy way to predict them, to be honest with you. It's a checklist. Go down the list. Goaltending, blue line, forwards, coaching, special teams, experience, and then X factor. And in that specific series, Tampa Bay's got the check in almost all of those categories. The one thing that Montreal has is the X, the intangibles. They don't have the experience. They got a great coach, but he's not John Cooper. It's just, they're Montreal. There's the mystique. Their building is probably the hardest to play in the NHL. But as far as the experience goes, it's not even, as a matter of fact, Philly has the fewest amount of playoff experience. That shouldn't surprise anybody, but Montreal's not far ahead of them. And I'm with you. Tampa Bay is the OG. What people forget is with the Panthers out, the Panthers have been in the last 3 Stanley Cup finals. They had to get past Tampa to get there, and they beat the hell out of Tampa. Tampa came back this year, and they're a lot tougher than what they have been. And Montreal, I think, is going to find that out.
Well, you mentioned Philadelphia real quick. And now, full disclosure to everybody, we are recording this on Sunday. So we had a chance to see yesterday's opening games of the Stanley Cup Playoff. And for the folks around here in Michigan, Rod, getting a chance to watch Porter Martone at Michigan State his freshman year, and then signing with Philadelphia. And all of a sudden last night, what does he do after 10 points in 9 regular season games? He gets what turns out to be the game-winning goal against Pittsburgh. I love what you mentioned about the top 2 check marks, defense and goaltending. And I think as much as Pittsburgh's got Sidney Crosby, I think Philadelphia's got superior goaltending and defense. And I picked the Flyers to win this series, although it's going to be a knuckle buster, that's for sure.
I got Philly picked to win the series too. Give the check mark on that to coaching. Rick Tocchet got them there, and I know everybody's talking about Dan Muse, the Pittsburgh Penguins' first-year coach, but I mean, most people couldn't pick him out of a lineup. That's nothing against him. He was an off-the-board hire when they hired him. To me, he's not Rick Tocchet. I mean, but Pittsburgh wasn't supposed to be in the playoffs either. That was 3 years out. So it's a very intriguing series. And Porter Martone, he was on my radar not because of the Michigan State thing, but because of the Canadian World Junior team. He's been a star with Team Canada, and him scoring the game-winning goal in Game 1, youngest Philly Flyer ever to score in his debut, besting Simone Gagne. Simone was 20, Porter's 19. So to be honest, that was like amongst our show viewers voted to be the least interesting series, Philly-Pittsburgh. And I'm like, I don't know how you could say that.
Wow.
I don't know how anybody could say that. And with those two teams meeting for the 8th time ever, that's the most any regional rivals have ever met.
Wow. Provincial
or state rivals. I think it's a hell of a story, and I really enjoyed the game.
I did too. It was fun to watch back and forth, and that's going to, like I said, it's going to be a knuckle buster the whole way. And then, of course, you got Buffalo and Boston coming up. I might be in the minority on this one, Rod. I don't think Boston's going to give Buffalo much of a fight. I've got Buffalo winning it in 5. I think Boston, it was a good story for them maybe to get in. I wasn't expecting them to get in either, but I just think Buffalo is just on a ride right now. They're going to get through this first round.
Well, I admire those that, and I used to, was one of them, go out on a limb and say how many games a series is going to go. I don't do that anymore, because whether it's a single game, whether it's a 7-1 game or a 2-1 game, especially in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. A win is a win. And as far as, how long will it take Buffalo to beat Boston? I've got Buffalo expected to win too. They're the favored team in the series. There's always one upset. Yeah, in round 1, always. But for me, that's the Philly series. But it's mind-bending to me that all of us are sitting there thinking Buffalo's going to walk Boston when they hadn't been in the playoffs since 2012. I mean, all of a sudden they went from the biggest joke in the NHL to the biggest wagon in the NHL. That's a story that we'll have to unpack in the summertime. It's quite a story.
So let's go to the West. Rod, I watched that Dallas game against the Wild and yesterday or Saturday morning. I made my picks, and I've got the Wild winning a very close series in that one. I think it's going to be another fun one to watch. But it seems like every year, Dallas, they give up game 1, but I loved that Mark Messier and PK Subban called them out because they look like the Stars looked like they were sleepwalking in that opening game. And wow, that really took me by surprise, and I'm glad they called them out for
it. God bless them for doing so. I mean, I'm so afraid now. I got PTSD from all my years of just doing what we're doing here right now. Like, I don't know. I don't want to piss anybody off. You know what I mean? Like last week, I told you I went to the Detroit, Florida game here, the last game of the year for the Red Wings. I was sitting with a young broadcaster. I don't want to say for whom. But he turned to me and just said, "Detroit quit. They quit." I'm like, "Yeah, they quit." And I'm a good friend of Todd McClellan, so I didn't want to say that, but the kid said it, and he was right. Look what Rick Bowness said about Columbus and their team. Dallas didn't look any better. They're coming off. They had a stretch this season where they tied a franchise record for consecutive point streak as a team. It was like 10 or 12 games. Wow. They're good enough. So what happened on Saturday defies any description. And to be like, I'll be honest, sorry to say, you didn't ask me about Detroit. They're just not that good. I looked at their roster. They're old in some spots, really young in other spots. There's nobody in the middle. That's Detroit. Dallas should be a wagon. Look at that team. Yeah. And they played like they didn't care. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was dumbfounded by that, watching that last night. And getting back to Detroit, I'll tell you, I got to give Todd McClellan a lot of credit because he could have really blew up in that post-game presser. You could tell he was pissed, but maybe he saw Rick Bowness the night before. But I'll tell you what, you could see the anger in his eyes, his face, and you might be right. They may not be that talented, Rod, but to another collapse like they had, it's just like, and then show a little professionalism when you on the last couple of games, especially that Florida game. He gave all the credit in the world to Florida, and as he should have, and it was crazy.
Yeah, well, it's just I don't know. For Todd, that was kind of blowing his stack out. I guess it could have been worse. Yeah. You could tell he was just. He was just steaming. He probably wanted to let him have it. And I didn't see what Glenn Gulletson had to say after game 1 for the Dallas Stars, but he had to be thinking a lot of the same similar things. I mean, just, we keep talking about Detroit because you're Captain Lou, you're a Red Wings guy, but I just looked at that roster for the Wings. I counted 4 or 5 players aged 35 or older. Dave Perron, Van Riemsdyk, Kane. Like, they are old in key spots that you don't want to be old in. And then the goaltenders, Talbot and John Gibson. Yeah. Where's the future? Like, that's bad. Dallas is the opposite. They got a lot of guys that are in the prime of their career. Mikko Rantanen comes to mind. Jason Robertson comes to mind. They get a lot of guys that were completely invisible. So Detroit's out of the playoffs for a reason. So anyways, if you're Dallas, what I say, 7-1 or 2-1, it doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. I can see Dallas coming back and kicking the crap out of Minnesota in game 2. I really can.
I equate it, though. It's funny. My wife said this to me last night. She said, so what, they got their ass kicked? She said, how many basketball games have you seen where Detroit got blown out or another team got blown out, and the next game they win the next 3 or 4? So you're right. It's just one game. Rod, am I crazy here with Edmonton? I said on Saturday that I could see them making one more run to the Stanley Cup final. I know their goaltending is their goaltending. It's always going to be that way. But why do I think – am I wrong to think that they got a shot to make a run to the final again?
Well, we're kind of getting to the heart of the matter here, right? No, you're not. They were like Ottawa, like James Duffy, the star host on TSN, who's from Ottawa, a month ago said about the Senators. He goes, this team could go to the Stanley Cup or miss the playoffs, and neither would surprise me. And I'm like, Edmonton is that of the West.
Yeah.
Like, they should be a wagon. They should be probably first place in the Pacific, but they didn't. Connor McDavid referred to the Pacific Division as a pillow fight, and he's not wrong. And Florida went in, I think it was March 19th, into Edmonton, and the media, a lot of my good friends in Edmonton, were calling for Matthew Tkachuk's head. They were putting a bounty on Tkachuk's head. They're like, look at what Tkachuk has said about this team and what he's done to this Edmonton Oilers team. Edmonton did, and then that night, Edmonton didn't even breathe on them and lost 4-0 to the Florida Panthers, a team that wasn't even playing for the playoff spot.
Right.
So Edmonton's missing a lot of heart. They're missing a lot of grit, and that scares me. Scares me a lot. And then you got Stuart Skinner starting in game 1 for Pittsburgh. Like, don't think it hasn't come up. Like, oh my God, wouldn't that be something if Skinner led Pittsburgh to the Stanley Cup? Like, Edmonton, that was the team I cheered for growing up until my dad signed a contract with Minnesota. Edmonton was my team, but their fans are out of control. And they've basically got me convinced that they're not a good team, that Evan Bouchard should be cut and Darnell Nurse should be cut and their goalies suck and the coach should be fired. That's just an Edmonton thing. It's way over the top. So they're unpredictable. I don't know what they have. And as I say, their fans have convinced me they're not a good team. Way to go. Bravo.
Well, I know that you have some base or your program, you have a lot of viewers in Vegas. Torts has turned them. Well, I don't know if he's turned them around, but he's lit a fire under their asses. 6-0-1. And what really impressed me is their 5-on-5 defense. Their goals against went down 1.5 points in that period. I think they're going to get past Utah. Utah's a fun story, but I think that's, in my opinion, that's where it's going to stop. I mean, I like Corey Hart in net, but I don't know, something about Vegas that I'm a little worried about.
I'm not at all, because their general manager I've known since I was 16 years old.
Okay.
And if you've been watching any of my show the past several months, when Vegas had been bottoming out throughout the year and they hadn't been very good, I said, I am not counting this team out. I will not count out Vegas, because like when I say I was in camp with the Brandon Wheat Kings when I was 16, Kelly McCrimmon cut me. And then I went on to be the voice of the Regina Pats between, their arch rivals, the Brandon Wheat Kings rivals at the age of 22. And we could never beat Brandon because Kelly McCrimmon would always find a way, no matter what, to get his team into contention. So I'm like, I don't know how Kelly's going to do it, but they'll do it. And they did it. And what it took was a coaching change. And then signing Carter Hart. I mean, we all know his history.
Yeah.
A lot of teams wouldn't touch him. Vegas didn't care. And that went up to the owner. The owner had to clear that. I know for a fact that didn't come from Kelly. It came from somebody else in the organization. But the owner goes, will this help us win? Yes. Sign him. And look where they are. So they're on this heater going into the playoffs with Tortorella. Carter Hart hasn't lost since he came back from injury. So there you go. I didn't know how Kelly would do it. I just knew he would do it. And I think they'll have little problems with Utah. And then they'll be lined up with Edmonton in round 2. Probably have not a lot of problems with them. Like even Oiler fans, Lou, I go back to what their fans have said to me. They don't think that they're going to get to the Stanley Cup final. Oiler fans don't. So why would I think that they're going to get to the Stanley Cup final?
Well, you're the voice of reason. That's why we got you on here today, Rod.
I don't know about that. I'm just telling you what I think.
And then, of course, we got Colorado. I know I'm not. I think you talk about a wagon. I think they're just, to me, they've got the the Hart Trophy winner in McKinnon. And I just think I love the story of Panarin and Kopitar retiring and all that. I would love to see him go out maybe on a run, but I just don't see him getting past Colorado. I know the Kings have a good record on the road this year. I think they're 10 games over 500 or something like that. But this Colorado team to me is loaded, Rod.
It shouldn't be close. It shouldn't be a long series. LA's another team that had to fire their coach along the way. And they barely got into the playoffs. It went down to the last week. But one thing that nobody's pointed out with Colorado is their goaltending tandem won the William M. Jennings Award for best goals against average in the NHL. Wow. Wedgwood and Blackwood. To have the names right, Scott Wedgwood and Mackenzie Blackwood. Yeah, they won that tandem. Most people couldn't even tell you who Colorado's goalies were. You're going to win a Stanley Cup on goals against in a lot of defense.
Yeah.
But if you've got the best goaltending tandem in the NHL, that's not a bad place to start either. And that award just came out this week because it comes out at the end of the regular season. So nobody's talking about that. The only thing that worries me with Colorado is it's not like football. Very rarely do you see a team post a wire-to-wire whomping like Colorado. Colorado was first from October till the end. They were by far the most dominant team in the NHL. And that team doesn't always – it's the President's Trophy curse.
Right.
I mean, I go back to Winnipeg winning it last year, and they didn't win the Stanley Cup, and they missed the playoffs this year. So they got mad at me in Winnipeg when I brought up the curse. I said, I don't know what you want to call it, and I don't make the rules, but there's a reason why you don't really want that award.
So you're sticking with Carolina out of the East, and you said Winnipeg, obviously.
I think I said Tampa, Vegas. I changed
Tampa, Vegas. You did. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, I'm going chalk. I'm going to go with Carolina and Colorado. You know, I said Saturday that I thought maybe Edmonton could get to the Stanley or the Western Conference Final. I'm going to stick with it. It's just a gut. You know, it's who knows on that, but it makes for fun talk, anyways. But I want to bring something up, Rod. I was reading this the other day when I was down in my travels. I was reading The Athletic, and they surveyed some player agents, and they talked about everything from the best run organizations to the worst, the easiest ones to deal with. Now, the best one, obviously, no surprise here, is Tampa. And the easiest ones to get along with or to work with, the easiest was the Minnesota Wild. Does that surprise you at all?
First I heard of that, Wild have been fine to me. I thought you were going to say the Florida Panthers because it's kind of funny. This week, I'll say it now. I don't think it matters. I said on Wednesday night, I was at the game when Detroit was here, and I said to the Panthers staff, I said, hey, I got wind of the story that Alexander Barkov's going to play for Finland at the Worlds. Would it be a problem for you if I broke that story? And the Panthers were like, well, we're announcing it tomorrow, so if you wouldn't mind. I said, hey, no problem. We're on the same side here. But the Panthers are great. And they've won multiple times the best PR department in the NHL. I'd never heard that about Minnesota. And I'll say one more thing with Tampa. That's why I was so mad that they were playing Minnesota or Montreal in round one, because I put in to get a media pass for game one. Yeah. And I got an email back saying, sorry, Rod, we always accommodate you, but Montreal's got too much traveling media. And I'm like, those damn Frenchies. I knew it. Montreal, Toronto, they fill the press box on the road. But Tampa's great. They're the OGs. They're a veteran team. They're a veteran fan base. I dare me for saying you won't be offended they're like a Canadian team.
Yeah.
Their coach is Canadian. The broadcasters are Canadian. That's how they run the team. Nothing against any of the other teams. But I thought you were going to say Florida was higher because they usually get voted one of the top front offices in the NHL. And last year, I think they won that poll you're talking about. And Bill Zito is an American from Milwaukee, the general manager, and he runs the Panthers like a team. Somebody said this about him. They said he runs the team the way we all would if we were running a team. And I immediately knew what they meant by that because he's a blue-collar guy from Milwaukee who was the Brewers clubhouse attendant as a teen, and he doesn't screw people over. He's straight with you. You see him around the rink wearing a tracksuit on off days, like he's one of the guys. Bill Zito, that's what you would want. I feel like Tampa is very similar to that.
Well, they're in the top three, but I just
are they?
Yeah. And the one that fascinated me the most The worst run franchise in their poll this year. I mean, I'm not surprised about Vancouver. I mean, it is what it is. But the Rangers were second, and that one kind of surprised me a little.
Second worst.
Second worst.
Well, it's interesting with these teams, and I can't speak for the Detroit. I have a lot of friends there. I include yourself in that. I've not really examined what's gone on with your teams. But like in New York, I was there. The Panthers went through their on their last big road trip of the year, and I went up to the Islanders and Rangers games there. And I'm looking at the MSG. Rangers are having their worst season ever, and the place is full, and it's raucous, and they're going nuts. And people don't bring the Rangers up in the pantheon of teams like the Maple Leafs and the Dallas Cowboys and the Yankees, but they are. Yeah. They are. And because in that, they sell out every game. So when you have a team that makes that much money and sells out, there's no onus to win. Like even with the Panthers last week, a staffer looked over the rink. He goes, if we don't win, this place will be empty. That's a very big difference in how you approach running your team. There's no pressure. I'm sorry. In the rain, there is, but there isn't. You know what I mean? Drury should not be there. Right. But he is. And figure that one out.
I can't. And lastly, in this poll, I wanted to bring one up to you. They asked them if they were satisfied with the CBA. And the agents, it was a narrow margin, but they were. They said it was a good CBA. But the one thing that they were not happy about, the one that stuck out to me, Rod, was they're not real happy that the rookie salary cap is so low. It's been the same for 15 years, and they thought it should have been a little bit more. Does that one surprise you at all?
Yes and no. I mean, look at the NFL and how they've modified theirs over the years. Mm-hmm. Honestly, Lou, I don't like the billionaires and millionaires fighting over their money. It's something you don't see me talk a whole lot about on my show. I mean, you and I are both old enough. I'll tell you a little story here. You were talking about rookie salary cap. 1988, Mike Modano as the Americans say it, was the number 1 overall pick, and he held out. He had the audacity to demand $200,000 a year from the Minnesota North Stars. And I remember because my dad was working for the team then. I remember the outrage. People were like, Gretzky only makes $250. Who the hell is Modano to ask for $200? He held out and he got it. And that was huge, huge, huge money. I've had so many friends go through the NHL, and so we're upset we don't make enough. Then go too far with me, Lou. I'm sorry.
No, it was just something that stood out to me. You know, it's obvious. They said the hardest one to deal with, getting back to that, was the Anaheim Ducks, and I laughed because they said they will fight you over $10,000 in each contract. And the one GM, they didn't say his name, obviously. He said, you got to wait until the 12th phone call when you deal with their front office before you can start to take them serious. That's got to be tough, man.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, people don't, a hockey team, a football, I'm sure you in your career had a very strong union, right? Yes. You were with right? You're clearly a union guy. You took care of people. I come from the radio world where we didn't have a union. So probably would have been nice if we did. You know what I mean? But I remember walking into my boss's office and saying, listen, I got the top job in this province. I want to be the highest paid guy in this province. And I got it. But I had to put my balls on the table to get it. I didn't care about the guy that was the lowest paid. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And that's what's the same with a hockey team. The guys, other than the Crosbys, guys like that, McDavid, they're very special, but it gets almost to a point where how much do you need? You know, so that's kind of my take. They don't care about each other. They don't. Don't tell me they do, because they don't. I know that. And then you're supposed to forget it all and then go out on the ice and go to war for each other. I've never really understood that, but that's just life. People don't understand. A team and a Coca-Cola don't operate any differently.
No,
they don't. It's a job. That's what I think people forget.
Well, it is indeed. And that's another great perspective. Last one for you, Rod. You've got this. Let's give you this scenario. You've got 3 Stanley Cup playoff games on your docket. You're at home. You're about ready to put your feet up with your favorite beverage, your Coca-Cola, whatever. What is your go-to food?
Well, number one, it's Diet Coke.
Okay.
And number 2, probably Doritos, Tostitos. They've just come out. Have you noticed the new loaded taco Doritos? Have you? Oh, they nailed it. They nailed it. It must be new because I just had it for the first time the other. They nailed it's Doritos, yeah.
Oh man.
And chili, and that goes for hockey and football, yeah.
That a boy. Well, Rod, as always, this has been an absolute treat. Love talking hockey with you. I could go on for hours with you. 12 to 2, Monday through Friday. You can find them. The easiest way to find them is on the Rod Pedersen Show on YouTube. And Rod, it's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks a lot, Lou. Thanks for the time.
All right, there we go. That was Rod Pedersen of the Rod Pedersen Show. Great insight as always. I love, kind of gives me a different perspective on things as far as what to look for, and great insight talking with Brad McCrimmon from Vegas. And does he sway my thought about Edmonton? Maybe a little bit, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to go back on it now, as what I'm going to do here is go back to our Extravagant Few Minutes episode from Saturday, where I gave my opening round predictions for the Stanley Cup. And then I gave my Stanley Cup predictions. So let's go back to that. That, of course, from our Extravagant Few Minutes episode on Saturday. Stanley Cup playoff time, one of our favorite times of the year. The best postseason in all of sports, bar none. NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever. These playoffs are second to none, and we've got an opening round preview for you right here. We're going to give you our opening round predictions. Make sure they're recorded in case somebody thinks I'm pulling a fast one. If for some reason I go 8 for 8 on the opening round, which never happens, but hey, it's a lot of fun anyways, right? Let's go to the opening matchups, if you will. Let's get to the opening round. Let's start out with the Eastern Conference. Carolina and Ottawa. It's a great story for Ottawa. I give you that. But Rod Brindamore, he's never lost an opening round matchup as a head coach in the NHL, and I don't think this one's going to be any different. Linus Ullmark, yeah, maybe he can pull something out to give him a game or two. Now, I could go out on a limb and say, I'll say that it's going to go 7, but I really think this one's going to go 5. This would definitely be a monumental upset, in my opinion. I know Ottawa's playing well as of late, but I don't know. Ullmark, I know 12-4-3 since the Olympic break. He's got him on a heater. Ottawa's coming in strong. But this is Carolina's Stanley Cup to win this year. There's no Florida. There's no New York teams. Boston is down. No Toronto. I think Carolina is going to go a long way in this one. Give me Carolina, though. I'm going to say it's going 5. I believe I've got it in 6 right there, but I think it could go even 5. I think Ottawa may get a split in Carolina, but I think Carolina wakes up. If that's the case, it could go 7. But give me Carolina in 6 in this particular one. Next up, the Flyers and the Penguins. This one's going to be a knockdown drag-out, too. I go back and forth on this one. At first, I picked the Penguins to go maybe in 7 and win this one. They've got Crosby. They've got Malkin. I know maybe one last run together as a duo. Who knows? But what I really like about Philadelphia, I think they've got the superior goaltending matchup in this one. I think their defense is much better. Dan Vladar in goal. And I love that Michigan State rookie product just signed literally a month ago. That's being Porter Martoni. 10 points in 9 games since getting the call up, if you will, signing with Philadelphia. That enough right there. I'm going with my heart on this one. I kind of flipped. At first, I thought it was going to be the Penguins in 7. Give me the Flyers in 6 in this one. But that's going to be one heck of a matchup. Next up, we've got the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins. Man, this one's pretty cool. Buffalo, the sentimental favorite. First time in 15 years they're going to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Boston, I think they just limped in, if you ask me. Give me Buffalo. I just love Alex Tage Thompson, Jack Quinn, Josh Doan, Rasmus Dahlin. Yeah, I'm going to take them over Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak. I know, and Jeremy Swayman. I get it. They've been there before. Buffalo hasn't. Give me the Sabres in this one. I don't think it's going to even be close. Give me Buffalo winning this one in 5. And finally, in the Eastern Conference, you talk about a knockdown, drag-out affair. How about Tampa Bay and Montreal? Tampa Bay gets the home ice advantage, and they've also got Vasilevsky in goal. That's the difference right there. Now, I love Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Oliver Kampanen, and Lane Hudson. I think they're all going to do good for Montreal. But when you've got Kucherov and Gunzel and Brandon Hagel, Darren Radish, and even Victor Hedman, who's not 100%. There's some question marks on how healthy he's going to be going into this one. I just can't go against Tampa Bay right now. I mean, they're so close. Montreal's had a great year. I think they're a year away. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes Montreal's way, but I think that Vasilevsky is going to be the difference in this one. Give me Tampa Bay in 7. My heart says go with Montreal because I've always been a Canadian fan since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, along with the Red Wings, my first love, Montreal, my second. But give me Tampa Bay in 7 in this one. It's going to be a dynamite matchup. All right, let's go to the Western Conference. First of all, Colorado versus the LA Kings. Well, this one's not going to be much of a matchup right here. I think the Western Conference, Colorado's been the best all year round. They've got, in my opinion, the Hart Trophy winner, and that being Nathan McKinnon. They got Cale Makar, and Martin Nikas. That says it all right there. And, as much as I like Kopitar, and I think he's a class act for LA, and they've got Panarin, and they've got Kemp and Byfield. How can you go against Colorado? Give me Colorado. The Kings will win one possibly in LA, but give me Colorado in 5 in this one. Next up, the knockdown dragout of knockdown dragouts. Dallas, Minnesota. Dallas, the 3rd best team in the NHL points-wise. Minnesota, the 7th. Why these two teams I have to meet in the opening round. Thanks, Gary Bettman, for this screwed-up system that they've got for the playoffs. It's just I don't get it, why they can't go back to 1 versus 8 in each conference, or even back in the old days, 1 versus 16 and so on. But nonetheless, we've got Dallas and we've got Minnesota in the opening round. You talk about, again, as I mentioned, a knockdown, drag-out affair. Jake Ottinger, is he going to show up? Is he going to be able to carry Dallas? He's not going to have to, I don't think. But I just, for some reason, I like Minnesota in the upset in this one. I think they're going to win in 6. I think they're going to split in Dallas, and I think it's going to go 2-2, maybe 3-1. If it goes back to Dallas 3-1, yeah, they're going to win either in 5 or 6. This is a coin flip in this one. I could very easily go Dallas in 7. I got to pick an upset, right? So I'm gonna go with Minnesota in 6. It's just a gut, but this is going to be so much fun to watch. These opening round Stanley Cup playoffs are just, oh my gosh, I just can't wait for them to start today. And it's give me Minnesota in 6, just a hunch. Like I said, who knows? This one could go 7. It could go Dallas's way. Some people are picking them to win the cup. I don't know about that, but give me Minnesota in 6 in this one. And finally, let's go to Vegas, right? Vegas versus Utah. Vegas, since John Tortorella has come back, they're 6-0-1. And since he replaced Bruce Cassidy as the head coach of the Golden Knights, their defense, 5-on-5 defense, is shaved off almost 1.5 points a game. That's huge. And they're 6-0-1, like I said, since Tortorella took over. Utah is a great story. Don't sleep on them. How does the saying goes? The rookies don't know any better. The young kids don't know any better. Second year in Utah, they've made the playoffs. I think they're going to give Vegas all they want in this one. I almost went for the monumental upset pick, but I don't think it's going to happen. Give me Vegas, but I think Utah pushes them to 7. The Golden Knights win to advance, and it's going to set up a matchup in the second round against them and Edmonton. Anaheim, thank you very much for showing up for the playoffs. I don't think I'm being generous in this one. I'm giving Anaheim potentially 1 win in this one, but I think Edmonton's going to go all the way to 5. And why do I got Edmonton's going to win this one in 5, I should say. I just think they're on a mission. Now, I know their goaltending with Ingram it's going to be a question. I get it. It's going to be a question mark. It always is with Edmonton. But why do I got this gut that Edmonton might find their way back to the Stanley Cup final? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I think they're going to take care of Vegas in the second round. I think it could be a Colorado and Edmonton Western Conference final. And then after that, all bets are off. And in the Eastern Conference, like I said in the beginning, I think this is Carolina's year to go all the way to the Cup. Give me Carolina going to the Cup final against either Edmonton or Colorado. I'll say I hate to go chalk, but I'm going to do it. Give me Colorado against Carolina. And as sacrilege as it is, being a Detroit Red Wings guy from way back in the day, we all know what the Avalanche and the Red Wings, they were mortal enemies back in the 90s. Give me the Avalanche winning it all. Give me the Avalanche winning it in 5 or 6 over the Carolina Hurricanes. All right, there you go. That was from Saturday, by the way, our opening round matchups, our previews before the Stanley Cup Playoffs started. And just a recap of the games from Saturday anyways, and early on Sunday. How about Minnesota with that win, right? And Dallas, like we said when we were talking with Rod Pedersen, sleptwalked through that whole game, and they got their asses kicked. I know it's only one game. They could still make it a series. And how about the Flyers? We talked about Porter Martone with the game-winning goal for the Flyers against Pittsburgh in that opening game. This is the best time. This opening round matchup sequence for the Stanley Cup playoffs. To me, there's nothing better, man. A lot of these series could go 6 or 7. That's what it's all about. That's my hope anyways. We get like 4 or 5 7-game series and just kind of keeping you on the edge of your seat. So, all right, that's going to do it. Our Stanley Cup preview. Want to thank again so very, very much Rod Pedersen from the Rod Pedersen Show. Always great to get his insight as he stops by every 2-3 times a year to keep us updated on what he thinks about the state of the NHL. We'll have him back on again in the fall. Thank you, Rod, for taking time out to be with us. And I want to thank everybody else for taking time out to be with us, watching us however you did, on your laptops, on your computers, on your iPhones, however you watch us around the world here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. All right, that's our extravagant Stanley Cup preview show for tonight. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs, everybody. Again, I've got Colorado over Carolina in 5 or 6 to hoist the Lord Stanley Cup. Until next time, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open.